Hi there, this is Dave Hompes and welcome to davehompes.com. This website's not really about me, it's about you, and it's about how we hopefully are going to be able to help you overcome any health challenges that you might be having right now, or improving your performance in a sport or a business environment if you're just looking for that extra 2, 3, 4, 5% that is going to make that difference for you. And I'm genuinely grateful for the fact that you've come to the website and that you're having a look around and watching this video. We specialize in helping people overcome sustained symptoms in cases where Western medicine hasn't really been successful. And we also, as I say, help in the improvement of performance as well, whether that's in the sporting environment or the business environment. Now, in terms of chronic symptoms or sustained symptoms that you might have, that you may be frustrated with and not able to find a solution, we help with things like chronic pain, mood disturbances like depression, anxiety, things like chronic fatigue or energy slumps, digestive problems, challenges sleeping, problems with blood sugar, and even problems with things like sexual and reproductive function as well. And what I want to do in this short video, because it's just easier to do this than to try and write a big long article about it, is really to provide you with a little bit of orientation in terms of our values and our principles that we kind of abide by when we're doing the work, and how we might be able to help you regain your wellness and optimize your performance. And the first principle I want to discuss here is something that I call the disease myth. And this comes from actually a book which is called The Disease Delusion, written by a guy named Dr. Jeffrey Bland, who's kind of the father of functional medicine. And what I like to do is I like to say, look, let's take the word disease and the word disorder, which are really frequently used within the medical setting, and let's hyphenate them. Let's use the words dis-ease and disorder, because when we do so, the meaning changes. We're not disempowered anymore to assume that we are labeled with some kind of disease or disorder. We're actually looking at a body that's not at ease with itself, or a body that is not in order. So what do we do to get the body at ease with itself again and back in order? That's what I'd like to teach you in the next few slides. Now, Western healthcare, as you probably know, tends to give a pretty much one-size-fits-all treatment to everybody. So if I have depression and you have depression, we're both going to get antidepressants. The actual type of antidepressant that we're given might change, but the general treatment is pretty much exactly the same. If the antidepressants don't work, then we might get referred for some psychological care, some psychological counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy, and so on and so forth. But ostensibly, the treatment's the same. But you and I are completely unique individuals, and so the cause of our depression might differ considerably. You might have food allergies creating your depression. I might have a chronic stomach infection with something like Helicobacter pylori, and a third person might have mercury toxicity, and a fourth person may be really depleted or deficient in key nutrients like B12, B6, and folate, which are really important for neurological function. Any and all of those different underlying causes may be creating the depression. So what I like to really emphasize is that we are here to give you truly individualized and customized care, treating you as a special, unique individual and really trying to dig deep and find out what's going on in your body to give you an individualized solution. The third principle is combining your genetics and your environment. So this is a statement on this slide from the US Centers for Disease Control, and it goes back to the year 2000. And what they basically say is that virtually all human diseases result from the interaction of genetic susceptibility factors and modifiable environmental factors, broadly defined as infectious, chemical, physical, nutritional, and behavioral factors. Genetic variations do not cause disease, but rather influence a person's susceptibility to environmental factors. We do not inherit a disease state per se. Instead, we inherit a set of susceptibility factors to certain effects of environmental factors, and therefore we inherit a higher risk for certain diseases. Now, why do I give you that big, long gobbledygook statement? Well, really, it's for this reason. We're led to believe that if it's in our genes, we're stuck with it. that if our parents have a disease, that if our grandparents have a disease, our aunts, our uncles, our brothers and sisters, if it runs in the family, we're doomed to get heart disease, we're doomed to get Alzheimer's, we're doomed to get autoimmune conditions or cancer. But what this statement really does is it takes away the blame on the genes, and it says that the illnesses that people are really having these days are to do with both the genes and the environment, and that gives us the power to change our environment. So let's have a look at how that plays out very simply. If we have disease or dis-ease in the middle, it's a combination of our genetic susceptibility and our environment. Now, we have the ability to assess your genes. I can look at your genetics and tell you whether you have certain genetic polymorphisms that may present a risk for developing problems or that may be contributing to some of the symptoms that you're experiencing at the moment. But those genes will still do very well if your environment is optimal, if you're well nourished, if you don't have infections, if you don't have many toxins in your body, if you're not very stressed. Unfortunately, there are not many people around who can claim to have that luxury, right? There's a lot of people walking around with really poor nutrition, nutritional deficiencies, toxins and what have you, because they're in our environment and we can't avoid them, chronic infections, and a whole bunch of stress. When you put the genes together with the environment, that's when you get your outcome. And that's why it's individual, because your genes are unique and your environment's unique. Nobody has the same stress as you. Nobody has the same nutritional status as you. You have a completely different microbiome in your digestive system. All the bugs are different, and you are totally unique from every other person on the planet, which means that we gotta look at things from an individual perspective. If we take it a little bit further, we can talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics just means above or beyond genetics. And that's really the environment upon our genes, acting upon our genes. So the environment includes pretty much everything that's not us. And the microbiome is this 100 trillion or so microbes that we have living in our gut, in our genitourinary tract, on our skin, in our mouth, in our sinuses. And they interact with us. And there's more bacterial DNA in our body than there actually is human DNA by the power of about 10 or 100, depending on which research paper you look at. So we're really superorganisms of human cells and microbial cells all interacting in a big witch's cauldron. And it's those interactions, along with the environment, that create our health and performance outcomes. Then, once we know all this, we have to add in choices. So we have our environment, we have our genes, we have the microbiome, but we also have our choices. At any given time, we have the ability to choose whether to live, let's say, just to keep things simple, a healthy lifestyle that really serves us or an unhealthy lifestyle that doesn't. The choices we make are based on complex sets of interactions related to our values and related to our perceptions of pain and pleasure. And sometimes I've got to go deep into looking at why people are making decisions in order to help them make different decisions. Principle number 4 is what I call the 7 areas of health. So most people who come and seek our advice have symptoms in many of these different areas. Sometimes it's one of the areas that predominates, but oftentimes they have symptoms in lots of these different areas. And so in the red, from going clockwise, we have the digestive system, things like heartburn, irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, bad breath, and what have you. Then we have sex and reproduction symptoms, and that can be anything from fertility issues to low sex drive. In women, it can be poor menstrual health, PMS and what have you. In guys, it can be things like erectile dysfunction. Then we have problems with energy. We have chronic aches and pains like arthritis and fibromyalgia and what have you. We have mood problems, depression, anxiety, irritability and what have you. We have sleep issues, problems getting to sleep or staying asleep. And then we have problems with the extremities, things that we can see from the outside, which are things like skin, hair and nails and what have you, which is really bothersome to a lot of people. And oftentimes, as I say, people have challenges in many of those different areas. But how do you deal with that if you're a doctor? Because there's no label that you can hang on to somebody who's just feeling down, who's feeling tired, who has some skin problems, not sleeping very well, has some heartburn, some bloating, and just has no sex drive. There's no disease that you can hang on that person or label them to treat them. There's no drug that can cure that situation. So we got to look deeply at what the common reasons for all of those different symptoms are. And as I've said a couple of times, that might vary from person to person. Very importantly, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a licensed physician, none of my practitioners are licensed physicians, so we don't diagnose and treat diseases. What we do is we seek the underlying reasons why you're not feeling yourself or why you're not performing as well as you'd like to do, and we address the underlying reasons. Oftentimes when we do that, the so-called disease or disorder just goes away, because the disease or disorder itself is a manifestation of various imbalances that are going on inside the body. The fifth principle is something that I call the vitality scale. And this is really arbitrary, but it just gives you a really cool idea that there's not really any such thing as health and disease. I'm going to come on to that with the next principle. But if you consider a 10 out of 10 to be someone who is masterful in their well-being, they don't really have any symptoms, they feel energized, focused, they have a great life, they look great, they feel great. And then right down at number 1, you have death. Well, every single one of us is on that sliding scale, and we're constantly moving up and down that scale. When we get a viral infection in winter, and that's called a cold or a flu, we might knock ourselves down to, say, a number 5 or maybe even a 4 on the vitality scale. If our immune system does its job and kicks out that infection, then within a week or so, we might go all the way back up to a 7, an 8, a 9, or a 10. And it's arbitrary because, if you're at a number 3 and you have a medically diagnosed disease, then a number 7 might feel really, really good to you. But if you're a number 7 and you're looking for an extra 5 or 10% on your performance, you don't have that many symptoms, but you could be better, then you might only be content or satisfied with an 8, a 9, or a 10. So health is in the eye of the beholder. It's how well do you want to feel? How well do you want to perform? But as I say, we're all on this sliding scale. There's no such thing really as healthy and diseased, or well and ill, or functional and dysfunctional. It's always some kind of mix, should I say, of all of these. The next principle is something that I call the bad stuff, good stuff seesaw. And it's very simple. If you're sliding down the vitality scale, it's because you have too much bad stuff in your body and not enough good stuff in your body. Now, I'm taking out the possible influence here of mental and emotional stress, and also physical and structural issues that I'm going to talk about in a moment. But specifically when it comes to nutrition and functional medicine, which is what we specialize in, the bad stuff, good stuff seesaw is really important. And to keep it simple, typically we find that people struggle because they have too much bad food going into their body, they have too many bad bugs in their body, and they have too many bad toxins in their body. And they don't have enough good food going into their body, they don't have enough good bugs going into their body or in their body, and they don't have enough nutrients. They've become nutritionally depleted. If we can find out what's in there that shouldn't be and get rid of it, find out what's missing or inadequate and put it back, people generally feel a heck of a lot better. The next principle, number 7, is illustrated by the Olympics symbol, the Olympic Games symbol. And it's really just to convey that everything in your body is connected. So unfortunately, we have a medical system where the specialists tend to know more and more about less and less. You have a cardiologist, you have an endocrinologist, you have a gastroenterologist, you have a neurologist, you have a dermatologist, you have a hepatologist for the liver, and you have all these different ologists, and they're all amazing in their own specific area of the body. But they don't really get and understand how all the different parts of the body are connected. And I could do a day's seminar showing you how all the different parts of the body are connected, but we only have a few minutes here, and I don't want to spend more time than we need to just to get this point across. But I'll just use 1 or 2 examples. Most of your immune system, which is the green ring, is in your digestive tract. It's anywhere between 60 and 80%, in fact, depending on which paper you read, which expert you listen to. So your digestive system and your immune system are intimately connected. That means if you have any condition that's related to your immune system, such as an autoimmune condition, you have to look at the digestive tract. You can't ignore it because that's where most of the immune system is. Another example would be your hormone system. Your hormone system controls your digestive system. And if your digestive system falls out of balance, if there's a lot of inflammation in there from the foods that you're eating, for example, or if you have a chronic bacterial infection like Helicobacter pylori sitting in your digestive tract, that creates stress on your body, and all of a sudden your hormonal balance changes because your body wants to try and deal with the stress. Another example, and this will be the last one I use, the detoxification system is intimately linked with the digestive system because all the blood that drains from your digestive tract goes straight to the liver, and the liver is the workhorse of detoxification. Then in return, the liver manufactures bile, and it squirts that out through the gallbladder into your digestive system to help you detoxify. So there's a two-way communication pathway there between the digestive system and the detoxification system. So you can't isolate parts of the body. What goes on in the gut doesn't stay in the gut. It can spread around the body, and the same is true for the other systems. The next principle I want to share with you is something that I created called the 3 levels of healing, specific to the work that we specialize in. And most of the clients we work with generally do really, really well at level 1, which is optimizing nutrition, eating habits, food intake, and also lifestyle factors. So it's optimizing foods, as I say, getting blood sugar stabilized, making sure you're eating a little bit more of a relaxed state at the same time every day, that you sleep and rest properly instead of really driving yourself into the ground, and that you do the optimal amount of movement for your level of health. Either under or exercise or over exercising can be problems, can cause problems. Level 2, we have what I call basic functional medicine. That's where we will run functional laboratory testing, and we will find things that are causing problems in your digestive system, in your liver, basic supplementation to help galvanize your energy production within the body, balance your hormones and things like that, all based on objective assessments that themselves are based on the symptoms that you explain to us so that we can choose the right testing for you. Most people do really well on level 1. Some people don't. That's where level 2 comes in. But sometimes people don't do well on level 2 either, because there are even deeper challenges. Some people are very heavily very heavily loaded, shall we say, with heavy metals, mercury, lead, arsenic, and they have to be removed from the body. Some people have genetic mutations, which sounds really glamorous, but it just means slight changes in the way that genes are expressing themselves that can create major imbalances in the metabolic pathways and can create really significant challenges. So on level 3, we're able to look at the genes and the environment and really get a deep feeling for what might be happening that is blocking somebody, maybe like yourself or like your mum or your dad or anybody really, from healing. Because if the nutrition and lifestyle principles don't work, then there's something blocking them from working, because they should work. If the basic functional medicine doesn't work, then there's got to be something blocking that. And there are other reasons why the healing might be blocked, and I'm going to come on to that in a moment. But in really tough cases, then we look at the genetics and we look at the detoxification. Principle number 9 is what I call the Wellness Triad. And this is really where we acknowledge that challenges with your health could be to do with biochemistry, which is really what I've been talking about in the previous slides. It's nutrition, it's digestive infections, it's toxins and what have you, hormones and things like that. And that's all biochemistry, which is in the bottom left-hand corner of the triangle. But some people don't do well even when they fix all of their biochemical influences. Sometimes if you're that stressed out with life, if you have a real grudge against somebody and you're really angry with them, if you are full of guilt and shame about something that you've done in the past, if you're very fearful about moving forward in your life, that can create symptoms. I've seen people's mental and emotional state change, and all the physical symptoms disappear very rapidly. Equally, if you have a blockage in your spine, a structural problem in your cervical spine in the head and neck complex, or you have a something like an osteochondritis, which is what I had in my spine, I'm not going to get rid of certain symptoms until a really skilled chiropractor or an osteopath or some kind of manual therapist gets in there and does their job. So typically what we find is that some people need to have a little bit of work on their structure and mechanics and or work on some of their stressors from a mental and emotional perspective before they move forward with their health as well. And you might think, well, how on earth do we figure out what all of this stuff is and how it fits together? And I'll come on to that in a moment. Finally, the 10th principle that I want to really hammer home is what I call the Trust Triad or the Trust Triangle. And what I just want to really reassure you about is much of what we recommend is just plain old common sense. And I think there's too much science. And when you have too much science sometimes, you have too many people citing the latest stunning research discovery that sometimes just good old common sense gets covered up. And all we need sometimes is to take a step back and look at your lifestyle and say, how about we just change these 2 or 3 things and let's see if that makes a difference. And sometimes it does. Pretty much everything that I recommend is evidence-based. You can find scores and scores of different research studies about the recommendations that we make. It's just that they haven't made it into standard medical practice yet. And everything that we do is clinically proven, which means that there have been 2.5, probably more than 3,000 clients now come through the programs. And, they've all experienced some kind of improvement. They may have not necessarily overcome every single symptom that they came along with, particularly in the early days when I didn't know as much as I do now, and I didn't have the same tools at my disposal. But really, the methods are clinically proven. If you look at the case studies and the testimonials on the site, you'll see plenty of social proof that what we do is actually effective. And I don't want to blow my own trumpet here. I just want you to be reassured that it works. And if it doesn't work, if you're really unhappy with it, then I have a money-back guarantee on all the services anyway, because it keeps us honest and it makes you hopefully break down the barriers that may be preventing you from making a decision if it's if it's based on finances. So if you pull all this together, what we really do in a nutshell is we take the jigsaw puzzle, which is you, your biochemistry, your lifestyle, your emotional and mental stress, what have you, and maybe some of your structural issues, and we piece it all together and try and figure out where the priority areas are. So we look at your symptoms, we look at a timeline of how those symptoms have developed, we look at the health history and really importantly your family history as well to get an idea of what might be going on. Have a quick look at your diet and lifestyle to see if there's any obvious things that could be improved there. And then we prescribe, if we need to, certain lab tests that are related to your biochemistry and your genetics to try and figure out where some of those deeper blocking issues might be. The nutrient deficiencies, the chronic digestive bugs that might be overgrowing, the toxins and what have you. And then we help you rebalance them in a very targeted way that's very unique and specific to you in a very individualized program. Then we offer ongoing support. There's nothing I kind of dislike more in the industry than a practitioner who just says, okay, spend all this money with me, I'll do all these tests, I'll give you these protocols, come back and see me in 3 months. I don't think that really works. So what we like to do is we like to support you on a weekly or a fortnightly basis. However regular or frequent we agree that the support needs to be, to hold your hand through the process and make sure that anything that we need to troubleshoot and answer questions on is dealt with right there and then, rather than you having to wait that 3 months for the next appointment. So, how can we get further acquainted? Because I know this is just a short video. Well, first, be sure to sign up for the health tips that are in the top right-hand corner on the right-hand side of the website. And that will give me the opportunity to stay in touch, inform you of special offers that we might be running, memberships, future events and things like that, which will become... Okay, sorry, I lost you there. My microphone fell over. And please feel free to join me on social media. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram and what have you. If you don't like opening and reading too many emails, you can stay up to date with all manner of news and events from our end as well. And obviously just cruise around the website, read the articles, watch the videos. There's a few case histories on here that you might like to read through. Some of them may ring true with how you're feeling at the moment. Some of the testimonials as well. And please be aware that we can help you either in person or at distance through Skype and telephone consultations. The location doesn't really matter. We have a global client base. If you'd like to get started, if you'd really like to get some advice pretty quickly, then you can either click on the link beneath this video window to arrange a really comprehensive case review and consultation, or you can arrange a free 15-20 minute no obligation chat to find out a little bit more about each other and how we might fit together and work together in order to get you to where you want to be. So I hope this short video of getting acquainted has been helpful. If you have any questions whatsoever, you know where we are. The contact details are here on the website, and I would absolutely love to hear from you. So hopefully we'll hear from you soon, may even see you soon. Until then, stay well, and I'll catch you later. Thank you.